Before time, before space, there was a primordial darkness. There was only the solitary self, the Atman, and no other moving thing. Creation began without movement. The self projected the universe through the exertion of a single thought. From that ideation, reality manifested. Vast expanses of cosmic waters, the solid ground of the earth, and the scatter of stars across the sky. The Aitareya Upanishad documents this exact cosmological awakening, beginning with the premise that in the beginning, this world was the self, one alone. From those primordial waters, the text explains that the self drew out a distinct form. It gave definite shape to a cosmic person, brooding over and incubating it like an egg. The physical scaffolding of reality was now in place. A grand cosmic architecture had been drawn, but it stood completely silent. It was a machine without an operator. A universe made only of earth, water, and fire is blind to itself. It has immense scale and complexity, but it lacks the capacity to experience its own existence. The text poses a central inquiry. If the physical world is an empty machine, who gives life to it? Who is the one actually aware of it? Elements crashing into elements generate heat and motion, not subjectivity. To give meaning to the mechanics, an independent observer is required. To bridge this gap, the incubating cosmic person began to hatch, birthing the senses. From its mouth sprang speech and fire. From its nostrils came breath and wind. From its eyes, sight and the sun. Manifesting the physical world established the objects of experience. But for those objects to have meaning, there must be a subject to perceive them. The Upanishad describes these newly hatched cosmic elements as deities. Fire becomes the principle of speech, wind becomes breath, and the sun becomes sight. Once created, these sensory deities fell back into the vast cosmic ocean. Immediately, they were afflicted by hunger and thirst. They needed a way to consume and experience. They demanded a dwelling. The self brought them a cow, then a horse, but the deities rejected both. These forms could not support the full spectrum of their faculties. Finally, the self brought forth a human being. The deities exclaimed it was well made. The human form offered the exact architecture required for their full expression. The macrocosmic principles funneled down into the microcosm. Fire became speech and locked into the mouth. Wind became breath and entered the nostrils. The sun became sight and rested in the eyes. The senses were perfectly installed. Yet the human form lay dormant. Eyes and ears can collect data, but without a central, unifying awareness to process that data, the body remained unconscious. The 8th century philosopher Adi Shankaracharya wrote a detailed commentary on how the ultimate self solved this, outlining its method to enter the waiting human form. Shankaracharya notes that the self could not enter through the extremities. The pathways of the feet were already claimed by the life breath, or prana, which governs basic biological functions. Instead, the self chose a dramatic alternative. It pierced the crown of the head where the hair parts, entering through this newly made gate. This specific entry point is defined as the path to Brahman, the direct route to spiritual realization. With the ultimate observer now seated within, the human form awoke. The biological machine was flooded with consciousness. The human form serves as a purposeful dwelling. It is the specific vehicle required for the self to perceive itself and its creation. With the construction of the cosmos complete, the text strips away the external universe to ask a purely psychological question. What exactly is this self that entered the body? The Upanishad presents a dizzying array of our inner faculties, questioning if the self is our perception, our cognition, our memory, our intention, or our desire. Modern academic scholarship, particularly A.B. Keith's translation notes, helps us analyze these ancient psychological distinctions. A critical distinction emerges here. There is prajñāna, which refers to the active, changing process of cognition, the act of knowing, and there is prajña, the underlying awareness itself. Shankara's philosophy clarifies this by identifying memory, desire, and will as external conditions. He describes them as instruments of the mind, objects that can be observed, much like the fire or the sun. Because a thought can be looked at and identified, it is an object. Awareness is the subject that does the looking. Since thoughts can be observed as they rise and fall, the Upanishad identifies the self as the silent witness that persists behind them. When you strip away the external physical world, and then strip away the internal chatter of memory and desire, you move your focus entirely to the internal silent light of knowing. The ancient sages concluded that what remains at the core of human identity is not an object to be known. It is the light by which all knowing is possible. This inquiry culminates in one of the defining Mahāvākyas, or great sayings of Vedic philosophy, Prajñānam Brahma. Consciousness is Brahman. If consciousness is the ultimate reality, who am I? That question of absolute identity forms the foundation of our next exploration into the depths of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad.